A very good evening to everyone who has joined us. So before the network can disrupt the flow once again, a very good evening to everyone. Shifting dynamics in a science class in terms of curriculum and pedagogy. Was the shift required only in view of the pandemic? Well, I believe no. Yes, COVID-19 has given us an opportunity where we are trying to connect to educators across the world. We are trying to collaborate and enrich each other with whatever experience we have gained. But then the shift of dynamics in a science classroom was always required with or without COVID. Many a times I wonder, I have taught physics all throughout my life before I joined in as a principal. And I realized that while a huge percentage of population gets fascinated by sci-fi movies, by the cosmos, by extraterrestrial creatures, or maybe anything related to the solar system, the galaxy, or maybe the ISRO's latest Mars orbiter mission, or anything related to astrophysics, or in many cases, the magics of science. Yet, many times, inside the science classroom, all that the teacher says appears kind of a jargon for the students, and they stay disconnected. I think it's time all of us educators, school leaders, as well as science educators in science, have a deep thinking, take a change perspective, and look into the organizing our science classes, conducting the science classes in a slightly different way, whereby we in our country are able to produce more innovators and we are able to create generations who has this problem solving ability, who has this critical thinking skills. And on that note, I would like to start today's evening, our fourth webinar as a part of our digital campaign With Positivity We Can. Today is a death anniversary of the patron saint of our institution, Swami Vivekananda. So if today's webinar, since it is being hosted by St. Vivekananda English Academy, Guwahati, and Swami Vivekananda International School webinar, and today being the death anniversary of our patron saint, I would like to start the evening with a quote from this great thinker and spiritual leader. Swamiji had said that knowledge can only be got in one way, the way of experiences. There is no other way to know. I think the curriculum of science demands all the more experiential teaching, experiential learning, whereby students are able to experience and apply what they learn rather than just be related to the theory and the concept. I would also like to mention another of Swamiji's quote, which says that a few heart-whole, sincere, and energetic men and women can do more in a year than a mob in a century. And I'm sure the eminent panelists that we have today, the invited guests, and all the audience who have joined, I can see lovely posts written that I am the science teacher from this particular college, and they're joining us from different parts of the state and different parts of the country. So we all together will try to create a little difference. After all, every drop counts. Let's see, by the end of the evening, we will have for ourselves, we have these Santa Clauses ready to distribute the bags of knowledge, the Christmas gifts of knowledge, and I'm sure we will be going off to sleep today in India with our petri dishes of learning, our petri dishes of experiences, presenting more exciting and innovative ways in which we can conduct our science class. On that note, I would like to welcome in the studio Dr. Carys Hughes. Hello, Carys. Good evening. It's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Carys Hughes. Carys is a former science teacher. She has been teaching, she had taught across the south coast of England in different schools and colleges, and she has been the science teacher at the Testwood Sports College and assistant team leader in science in Paris Community Science Sports College. She was the head of science in Stanbridge Earl School. All these before she joined University of Southampton, where she currently works, the Southampton Education School, where she is lecturer and tutor of the postgraduate teachers training course, training the next generation of science teachers. As a part of her role in the university, she also works at the Mathematics and Science Learning Center with teachers and schools across the South Coast to develop improved science education and outcomes for young people, and works on international programs. Her areas of particular interest are STEM education, special education needs, in particular, needs of dyslexic and autistic spectrum children with dyslexia and autistic spectrum conditions, and research into biodiversity education. She is a chartered science teacher and a member of the Royal Society of Biology Education Research Group. She is also the governor Abbotswood Junior College, a graduate from Newcastle University. She holds her Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Southampton, did her graduate teachers program, and as well the postgraduate certificate of education studies in teaching methodology from University of Southampton. And all those who have attended a training program under Carys knows how magical she is and the impact she can have on the teachers. Welcome, Carys, and thank you so much for taking time out.
Oh, thank you for that introduction, Mitra. I feel very honoured to have been asked to come and join you, and it's strange to think that exactly this time last year, I was actually flying home from Guwahati back to the UK, having spent a wonderful week with you and Janali and Pankaj.
Absolutely, absolutely. We keep speaking about that, and they are also here, and we are sure to have a very interactive round today. Thank you, Carys.
Thank you.
I'll be inviting our second panelist of the evening, and she is none other than Ms. Veena Raizada, ma'am. And every time I think about ma'am or the program that I attended, ma'am's training program that I had attended, I'm left with only one wish, apart from being charged up. Yesterday I was speaking with Dibjyoti, and Dibjyoti was saying that, she is like a source of photon. So she goes on bombarding us with photons, and everyone around us, we get charged up with our energy. If at your age, ma'am, I even have 50% of the energy, I consider myself blessed. So my pleasure to introduce Ms. Veena Raizada, an independent consultant, advisor, trainer, former director academics and academic consultant, Next Education, curriculum developer. Veena ma'am brings with her 35 plus years of teaching and administrative experience with a decade into digital content and application creation. A dynamic visionary leader who is highly skilled and is an educationist who is overtly student focused. Of course, your workshops say that all. Education is her passion, and especially of a girl child. An ardent supporter of technology, she believes that technology can go a long way in reaching out for education to all. transforming visions of 3 projects from grassroots levels into educational institutions of repute. Veena ma'am has also been a CBSE resource trainer and conducts regular training sessions pan-India on innovative pedagogical approaches in teaching, diagnostic assessments, art of transforming the learning in the classroom management, concept mapping, mind maps in K-12 education. She's been a trainer for integrating technology into education, has been author of articles on the same topic, whether it was the NDTV Heads Up program, where she has participated in the discussion on computers in education, how to keep children motivated in school, or how to inculcate reading habits in children. Veena ma'am never fails to radiate out, as I said, a few photons from her system and charge up the audience with passion, zeal, and enriching content. A postgraduate in physics and education with physics and mathematics as teaching subjects from Delhi University and masters in education from HP University. She has had a awesome career, and she has been touching lives and creating a difference in the field of education. Welcome, Veena ma'am. And I realized as I was going through your profile, when you were a student of Miranda House, Delhi, I was perhaps born. And therefore, therefore, I nourish that desire that even at your age, your enthusiasm to learn and to go on challenging yourselves, it's a big learning for everyone around you. Welcome and thank you for your time, Veena ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful experience for me going to be learning from Dr. Carys and interacting with all of you. Once again, Guwahati has been my favorite place to go for trainings and sessions. And I hope to learn and share my learning too. Thank you, everyone, and welcome, everyone.
And now I would also, before I invite the panelists to deliver the keynote sessions, I would also like to invite and introduce the guests that we have in the studio today, the guests who will help us to enrich the discussion all the more. And the first guest that I welcome is Ms. Janali Das, Principal, Modern English School, and she has a connect with the University of Southampton as she has done her Master's in Education from that same university. Welcome, Janali.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for coming over this evening. And I would now call upon Dinesh Lahoti. He is the founder, and his profile says he's a founder of Educator and Career Spark. But I would like to introduce Dinesh as a passionate educator who is passionate about teaching science and maths in a different way, and is passionate about reaching out to every learner in every corner of the state or in the city or wherever. Welcome, Dinesh, and thank you once again for joining us. This is the second time you're here, along with Janali and Veena ma'am. Thank you, Dinesh.
Thank you, ma'am. Looking forward.
And next, I would like to call upon Pankaj Das. Pankaj is here? Yes. So we have Pankaj Das, and Pankaj is the director of Modern English School, Kahilipara. Pankaj, your video, please, if you could put it on.
It is on. I don't know why it has not gone.
Okay, so
maybe
I'm playing the wrong tricks, maybe. Yeah.
No.
So
I don't
some
know
network issues. Yeah, probably. Anyways, we hope that we will get to see you in a while. So Pankaj, he's the director of Modern English School, Kahilipara, a passionate educator once again, and Janali and Pankaj together, I think, creates a big difference in the educational scenario of Guwahati. He's also the president of All Assam Private Schools Association. And Pankaj, thank you so much for agreeing to come over. I know your busy schedule, and in spite of that, you have agreed to be a part of our program. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Mitra. Hi, Carys. How are you?
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just now call in the other invited guests one by one, and maybe I will just Pankaj will get you back once we have your video on. I would now like to call upon Sharmishta Datta. Sharmishta Datta had been my colleague in Mumbai, and she is the lecturer of physics, Swami Vivekananda Junior College, Chembur, Mumbai, and she has been teaching physics for 25 long years, 21 years in this particular junior college, a postgraduate in physics. So we have many postgraduates in physics. So welcome, Sharmishta, and thank you for coming over today, although virtually.
Thank you very much. And I wish a very good morning, good evening, sorry, to all the eminent panelists and the guests along. And Mitra, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm sure that whatever I came with, and when I go back, I'm going to go back with much more. So welcome and hi to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll just add Chandrani to the stream, but I will have to take. Hi, Chandrani. Now, this is introducing Chandrani Ghosh. Carys, you are not alone. Too many physics people, if you are thinking, here I have a biology person for you. So, Chandrani Ghosh, yes, she is a senior teacher of biology, Father Leblon School, Darjeeling. But without Chandrani's permission, let me also mention that she's the vice principal of the school. And she is a very passionate educator, and it has been a pleasure. I've known her for just a few months, and it has been an enriching discussion always whenever I have had a chat with her. Thank you, Chandrani, for agreeing to join.
Thank you so much, Mitra, for inviting me for this enriching session. And when I saw that topic, it really, I was where I wanted to know more from all the eminent panelists. So therefore, I thought maybe it would be a very learning experience for me. And when I heard about Carys and Veena ma'am, I was thinking I'm in the right place, because I wanted to gather as much as I can take from this session.
I know. I know.
Thank you so much. And good evening to all. Good evening to all.
Chandrani is such an eager learner, always. So therefore, I know how much you look forward to it. So with that, hoping for a beautiful evening. Over to you, Carys. The audience are all ears to you. Over to you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mitra, for inviting me. And I think this is very much an opportunity for us to all learn from each other. Certainly, a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you today, I've taken from meetings that I've gone to. This is the coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever we're calling it at the moment, has certainly been an impetus and a catalyst for us to start sharing a lot more, and also for us to really think about how we're teaching science and how we can teach effectively, especially remotely. So I'm just going to try and share my screen with you. This has certainly been a learning experience for all of us, I think, in terms of using technology, if nothing else. Okay, so hopefully you can now see that screen there, and I'll start the slideshow.
Yeah, and if you could make it full screen, Carys.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So we're now full screen. Okay, so as Mitra has said, so I'm from the University of Southampton and the Education School at the university. So we've had to really battle with a lot of technological changes with COVID-19 and supporting not only our schools and our local schools, but also all our trainee teachers, which is something that I've certainly been involved with. So that's me. There we go. And so what I'll just go over quickly here with you is the current state of play in England, which is an ever-changing situation, as you can imagine. And plans that our teachers have for the next academic year, and also some resources that we found have been really helpful and that we can share. And I'll show that to you on a platform that hopefully means that we can all move together, sharing lots of resources as well. So you may or may not be aware that England itself has different policies to the devolved nations. So we have Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland as well. So currently, we've got 3 weeks of our term left now, our summer term. And just at the beginning of July, we've welcomed back our Year R's, Year 1s and Year 6 in primary, and our Year 10s in secondary, and our Year 12s in our sixth form college. So they were felt to be our most important years. However, this varies greatly across local level. So certainly the school that Mitra mentioned, where I'm a governor, is a junior school. So we teach up, the teachers there teach up to 11-year-olds. And we have, so just Year 6, but we have actually sent the Year 6s home now. And we've welcoming back our Years 3, 4 and 5 just to give them a little bit of face-to-face time before they come back in September. So schools have been told by our Department for Education that we need to develop a recovery or a catch-up curriculum for all of our children, with even more interventions on top of what's already being provided for our disadvantaged children who may have fallen further behind. So this is, I think, from having some conversations with Mitra and Veena yesterday, we have some similar situations where technology and being able to do remote learning has been quite difficult and quite challenging for some of our families. In terms of a recovery or catch-up curriculum, the teachers I've been working with have been very tentative about using that kind of terminology because it makes it sound like it's going to be very different and that the children have fallen behind, and we don't really want to give them that impression. So it may just be that they are having a different curriculum, and that if this is their Year 11, their GCSE year, that their GCSE year may be slightly different to the year before. But we're trying to steer clear of using some of this terminology with the children so that they doesn't put added pressure on them, because the mental health of the children is as, if not more important sometimes than the learning. So at primary level, so our younger year groups up to 11, science is as often not a priority because it is no longer part of our standardized tests and our accountability. So at primary level, the main focus has really been on making sure that the children are not falling behind in their English and their maths, which are their core subjects, although science is still a core subject, even at primary. However, at secondary level, as all sciences are compulsory up to the age of 16, we found that this has had a much higher priority in terms of learning. And our lovely teachers across Southampton and Hampshire have been kind enough to, they share good practice with us at the university. We share our good practice at what we've been doing with them. And we've sort of brought together some of the things that we have found have worked really well. And schools have worked so hard, and I can't believe how hard our teachers have been working. There's been no school holidays because our key worker children have been provided with childcare all the way through the coronavirus crisis. Even through school holidays, schools have stayed open for those children. So just to give you an idea of what our schools are finding is working with remote learning. They found that actually we get much higher engagement with remote lessons where there was this live aspect or element. So often when feedback has been delivered using Zoom or Teams or one of these kind of virtual meeting rooms to a whole class, that the tasks have been a lot more valued and we've had much better completion rates. Also, very simply, just narrating PowerPoints. So rather than just loading a PowerPoint up onto a virtual learning environment, or the teachers have found that just being able to speak through the PowerPoints, which is not something we normally like to do. We don't normally suggest reading through PowerPoints is a good thing if we were teaching face-to-face. But the sound of that familiar voice for the teacher has been really sort of comforting for a lot of our students and helped them to have some form of normality. So sometimes schools, if they have a VLE, are just uploading narrated PowerPoints. And some schools are using webcast platforms such as Loom. And this not only has it enabled all of our pupils, well, most pupils, to be able to follow the lessons much better, but for those students with special educational needs, particularly our dyslexic students, the not having to read through the PowerPoint and being able to listen has also been really beneficial. Keeping in touch with parents has been really key. It's very hard work and not something that is able to be done every day for every parent, but certainly catching up with parents just so that they really know how much their children are really engaging with the learning. Because often, of course, they're sat there in front of a screen, they've got their mobile phone and they say, yes, of course, we're learning here. Yes, we're doing our work. And a lot of the apps that our schools have been using can log the data. So teachers are actually able to tell parents exactly how much learning their students are doing and whether they are learning. And the way we've been doing that, or teachers have been doing that, is using, and one of the apps they use is called Seneca Learning. Another app is Tassamai. Seneca Learning is great because it is free to use, although it does have a premium function, but it is a social enterprise that set that up. So we really like that one. And the great thing about that is it is online retrieval practice and assessment, and it's really useful for consolidating the content that students have already learnt. It can also be used for some new content, but its real strength is in that retrieval practice and the spaced learning. And then we found that the best use for the remote learning, I mean, we are hoping that it's very much going to be a temporary thing, and that by September we've been told that all of our students will have to be back in school, but we may still have to do some remote learning. And certainly at the university we are going to do as much face-to-face as we can, but even with our trainee teachers we will still be doing a blended approach. And so remote learning is really useful for the consolidation, deepening learning, and preparing our students for new content. But that new content really we found is best presented live. It's very difficult for the students to just learn it by themselves, especially if they're not very well engaged with the learning. So other things that we have found is that one thing that is really key is flexibility. So we've been recording our sessions so that if a student cannot attend, they can watch a replay. And where we found that students haven't always got access to a device or to the internet, this has enabled them to still be able to attend. And of course, because we can, on some of the systems we use, such as Microsoft Teams, we can chat as well. They can also see what's going on in the chat. Assessment has been a real challenge and something that both for us as an HEI we found quite challenging, and also for our students in schools. But it is required, and if we're just setting lots of tasks for the students to do and they're not getting any feedback, then they stop valuing those tasks and then they stop engaging with the learning. So we need it in order for students to engage and value tasks, but also then for us to be able to inform our future planning. So it's very difficult to do too much planning without knowing how much your students have actually taken on board. And again, so I've already talked a little bit there about the adaptive assessment. And what's lovely about the adaptive assessment is that it has an artificial intelligence layer that works out and learns where students have strengths and weaknesses. So it will start testing them more on areas that they're finding more difficult and allowing them to do more revision on that. And also they're using very small chunks of learning. So at the university with our trainee teachers, we've had to put what would be whole day learning sessions into much smaller chunks. And we found it really tiring as teachers, and really tiring for students as well, to be accessing that remote learning. It seems that just working through a screen is much more tiring. So we've been running much shorter sessions with many more breaks, and that means that we're actually probably only covering about half of the content that we would normally if we were teaching live. So we're having to be really selective about what we teach and the most important bits, so the real key core concepts. And so our plans for the new academic year, well, watch this space. So at the moment, the government has told us that all of our students in all of our schools must be back to full-time school in September. And that is assuming no second wave or local lockdowns. We do currently have one area of England in a local lockdown where the schools have been closed temporarily. We haven't had a lot of detailed guidance yet as to how this is going to be managed, but the ministers have spoken about having class bubbles and year group bubbles. So our bubbles are groups of children who do not mix with other groups of children at all during the school day. So we have had staggered start times, staggered end times, and even staggered bathroom breaks, and having lunch and then all their breaks with that group of children. So this works for us fine at primary because our children stay in the same class all day anyway. But at secondary school, which is where I train secondary school science teachers, this has become more of an issue because they are not in the same class, they mix, they're in different ability groups and have different subjects and move around the school. So what has been decided is that we will have whole year group bubbles. So different year groups within the secondary school will not be able to mix. And that has presented a lot of schools still with problems, especially for science, because we need those specialist facilities. We need to be in a lab in order to do practical work. And Mitra spoke at the beginning about how important it is for students to experience science, not just to be doing the theory. And this is what is causing us some real challenges and some real worries about practical work, because we have fought very hard to make sure that practical work is integrated into students' learning, and that to have the possibility of that being taken away or reduced is one that we need to make sure, if it does happen, is only temporary. So what we're finding that some schools are doing is they are putting different year groups into different areas of their school. So one year group might be in the science block, one year group might be in the maths block, one might be in the English block. And the problem with that is that, of course, if they're not in the science block, then they're limited as to how much practical work we can do with them. It doesn't mean we can't do any. We just need to be clever about it. So the other problems that we have, other than the lack of facilities, is that more cleaning of the equipment between classes needs to happen. We're very lucky in that schools in the UK do have science technicians who are employed to make sure that practical equipment comes in and out of labs, we all have the right amount of things, and that it's cleaned in between. But with more cleaning, that's probably going to mean that we have to do less practical work. And our other issue is our personal protective equipment availability. And this is not to do with COVID. This is just our standard PPE that we would need in a science lab, such as our safety specs and goggles. What happened in the UK was all schools pretty much donated all of their goggles and their gloves and plastic aprons and anything that they had to either hospitals or local healthcare providers. So we've somehow got to find the funding to buy new PPE, but also that needs to be available in order that we can do practical work safely, because that is a key thing of practical work. We have an organisation in the UK called CLEAPS, which is an organisation that provides health and safety and risk assessments. And they've done a lot of work to make sure that schools can do practical work safely. However, they are a subscription service, so it's not something that I can send you towards. but I'm sure there must be similar organisations elsewhere. So, looking at our plans going forward for our new academic year, so these have been based around looking at the Gatsby Good Practical Guidelines, which was a body of work that was completed a couple of years ago now. But it's available if you Google Gatsby Good Practical Guide, you will find that there. And the suggestions that we've taken from those are as follows to how we can make practical work keep going in science. So we've looked at, can we do an alternative practical activity to the one that we might have usually done? Maybe we need to look at a practical activity that isn't the optimal one, but it means that a student can carry out that practical on their own because it requires less equipment, or it doesn't require 2 people or more to run the practical and to take readings from the practical. So we've been doing a lot of work looking at what would we normally do? Is that going to work? If not, how can we look at an alternative? Can we adapt? Of course, if that's not possible, the best option may be that we do a teacher demonstration of that practical. And often we need to do that anyway, where there are chemicals or equipment that we can't allow students to use, such as when we're doing radioactivity practicals. So because we can't have all the students crowded around a desk at the front and watching that demonstration, there's been lots of thought gone into how we can make those demonstrations effective. And that has an implication for our teacher training, not only for our trainee teachers for next year. So we've had to think about how we will change our teacher training for next year to make sure that our trainees can deliver effective demonstrations as well as effective practical lessons, but also for our in-service teachers, because we've tended to move away from a teacher standing at the front doing a demo. So we've been looking at how we can use visualizers so that the students can have that projected, what's on the visualizer can be projected onto a screen so that everybody can see what's happening. And also, of course, that can be recorded as well. There's a multitude of simulations out there. The PhET simulations, which I'm sure you've seen, are amazing, and we love those. And the Gatsby, the Good Practical Guide, suggests that simulations in an ideal world are there to enhance what we're doing in terms of practical work. But of course, if we're unable to complete the practical work, these again are another next best solution. And those simulations could be used along with a teacher demonstration. So it could be that a teacher demonstration is carried out first, and then students run through a simulation to collect data. And videos, of course, YouTube, wonderful, we love it. Masses of excellent science videos, such as the Malmesbury science videos that for us, they're very helpful because they focus on our core GCSE practicals, which are practicals that students have to have completed in order to be able to answer certain questions in our exams. And of course, we can focus on all of the other scientific inquiry skills that students need, not just those practical skills and the data collection. So we can focus on planning, we can provide sets of data for students to analyse, and we can, with the teacher demonstrations, we can, of course, ask the students to spot where we may be not doing good practice or where we may be making mistakes. Of course, they'd be deliberate mistakes on our part for our students to spot them. So there are other things that we can look at there. We don't just have to look, of course, at straight practical work. And although our curriculum doesn't particularly allow for this, we can try and look at our curriculum where we are project-based, and practical work could be carried out at home in that case. It's something that we can do at primary level here, and maybe in our lower secondary. It's a bit more tricky in our GCSEs, but it is something that schools are beginning to look at, how we can make this work. And also, we are just moving our curriculum around. So where we've got practical work, units of work that are very practical heavy, rather than teaching them at the beginning of the year where they might be rotated in, we're moving them to later in the academic year where hopefully social distancing will have reduced and it will be a lot easier to run those. So I know some schools, and this is where, as a biologist, I'm very pleased about this, that some schools are going to be looking at doing quite a lot of biology in September when our term starts, because for us, the weather is still good enough to be going outside and doing ecology fieldwork and other biology work, which is great because it means that students are outside, it's easier to socially distance, and it means they're getting some biology and doing some ecology fieldwork. So sharing resources. So I am a big fan of Padlet, and I use I use Padlet a fair bit with my trainee teachers, because is that going to load? Let's have a look. Oh yes, it is. So Padlet is lovely. If you have a school subscription, then students can use this to upload project work. They can make nice timelines. They can upload tasks for you to mark, and you can write comments on that and do ratings. And also they can do peer assessment. So they can comment on each other's work, and you can moderate that as an educator. But what I've used it for here, and you of course will all have seen the link on the PowerPoint, and I can come back to that. So anyone with that link can get into this particular Padlet page that I've created. So I've added some resources on here, but what I would really love to happen is for you to take this and for everybody to add resources that they know work that you've used, because of course everything I've added here is going to be quite England centric, and not all of it is going to be applicable or in the right context for you to use. So just to go through these, sorry, I have to keep looking at my screen to the left because I've got this on a bigger screen here. We've been incredibly lucky, I think, in the UK, where in terms of remote lessons, we've actually had the DFE, our Department for Education, has worked with multi-academy trusts and other people to put together the Oak National Academy, where live lessons have been being run for students across all phases. And those have been recorded, so they are accessible. And also the BBC's got on board and produced us some lovely remote lessons there. And my favourite one is Encounter Education. So they run live fieldwork lessons, and some of those are from all the way around the world. So you can go and do an ecology practical on the coral reefs. And then just going across here, if my mouse is going to work. Oh yes, there it is. So I've just put some lovely remote learning resources up here. So the Institute of Physics is fantastic, the Marvin and Milo, which can be used for some of the lower year groups, and also maybe for some of your lower ability students. My favourite science videos. Practical Action is brilliant because they do a lot of project-based work. The Royal Society of Chemistry, of course. STEM learning. Now, I have to say I have a bit of a interest in STEM learning in that I have worked for STEM learning, but they provide a lot of free CPD, and it's a lot of the remote CPD is free until the end of this month. So go and have a look and see what they're doing, and if you're really interested, I'd grab on to some of those remote CPDs if you can. So I've just put loads in there. The other one down here is our Association of Science Education have actually put together a coronavirus hub, which is brilliant because they've pulled all the resources that we might need there. So that's another good one-stop shop. And then don't forget the informal learning opportunities. So especially for your children who maybe are struggling to engage, sending parents in the way of some of your local science. Sorry, I put a timer on there so that I know I've come up to my end of time. So sending parents towards informal learning opportunities that might spark some interest just to get the kids engaged or re-engaged with science are fantastic. And I've I've put these ones are all in the UK. And lastly, just some apps up here. So Seneca Learning, which is the adaptive assessment one. And also, we have these amazing computers in our hands, and I have apps downloaded onto here that have sensors, which means I can use my phone as a data logger. So I can go outside and I can do experiments or look at field work, look at biotic and abiotic factors, just using the all the sensors that my phone has on it. So that's another one to think about using that doesn't cost us anything extra. And there's just another app there that's great for IDing. So if I stop sharing my screen. Okay, I'm back. So I really look forward to sharing good practice with you and learning from the experiences that you've been having with your remote learning and your remote teaching of science, and how you're planning on moving that forwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carys. That was beautiful. And those the resources that you showed, that's the first thing I'm going to do once this webinar is over today evening, and I'm going to check out. And actually today morning, I just happened to check out this Royal RSC, Royal Science Society for Chemistry, which is also based, and there was this lovely concept map, which were free downloads, and there were lovely, certain bingo kind of games with periodic table. And I felt like, yes, we cannot replace the lab work, but then still, lab is basically I believe, to try an experience of the science, try on things yourself, but main thing is to ignite that curiosity, and these things also can ignite that curiosity in no less way. So we have to just try to find out. You said the computer in hand, absolutely, with that in hand, I think the world is ours.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carys. Okay, so we'll get back in the interactive session. Now let me invite Veena ma'am for her presentation. Veena ma'am, we are all ears, and you'll be happy to know there are many science teachers in the audience from across our state. And my tech team member also mentions that there is some science teacher who has joined us from Bangladesh as well. So therefore, I'm sure everybody is looking forward to this evening of enriching learning experiences for us, the educators. Over to you, Veena ma'am.
Good evening. I think Carys has already set up the stage for sharing of learning, whatever has been going in England. Now, hello and good evening, everyone, once again. Good evening, everyone, once again. Thank you, Mitra, for giving me this opportunity to share my views on this topic, shifting the dynamics in a science class, curriculum and pedagogy. Now, I would like to address this in three questions that are related to academic experiences and teaching learning processes. The very first one, what are the forces that are driving this shift dynamics in a teaching learning process? In fact, in all these subjects, but today we are focusing only on science. Second one, how can we redefine, reorganize, replan, and relook at the variables that define the teaching learning processes for us? And finally, sharing few tips and strategies and resources that how we could have teaching online of our subject science in a more engaging, interactive manner, so that students are actually looking forward to the classes that we are doing online. So to begin with, as Mitra rightly said, that dynamics is not because of only COVID-19. In fact, rise of technology has been so exponential that we as teachers were still in the traditional classrooms or tech-enabled classroom only. So this COVID-19 pandemic, which led to lockdowns and actually made the closure of all educational institutions, had a huge impact on teaching learning processes. It was a huge challenge for educational institutions to maintain that learning continuum for the learner. So everyone made that shift from traditional classrooms to teaching online. Even though we were not prepared, even though we were not aware of the right kind of edtech platform that could be used, but we as educators, we as teachers took up this challenge and went on to teach online. Now, in the past 3 months, of course, we have observed, and now we can have some kind of decision to what to use and how to incorporate the tools for various aspects of teaching learning process to way forward. So that was one paradigm shift that happened because of COVID-19. Technology trends were already there, but we were somewhere not aligned with that. So this has given us an opportunity to take that leap and come in line with 21st century expectations. So learning curve has to be exponential, keeping in view that technology trends are exponential. They are growing exponentially. The way augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and everything is entering. The future of classrooms is not what we were in and not even what we are in right now. So it will be entirely different. So we are preparing the children for a future which is uncertain, which is not known. So we have to keep our pace with this shift of dynamics in a continuum. Then as we moved from those tech-enabled classrooms, or some were still in the traditional classrooms, there was a shift that was happening. The children who were learning within the four walls of the classroom, or children who were learning in the group activities with the whole class, they were made to learn in isolation at home. All communications, everything was virtual for the child. So it was a huge change, paradigm shift, even for the learner. And in this whole process, one major factor that came up as a shift was that parents as joint educators emerged as evaluators of teaching learning processes. They were the ones sitting with the children and watching how the teacher is communicating, how is she addressing the questions of the students, how the students are engaged, how their response is being addressed by the teacher. So they emerged as the evaluators of teaching learning process. Parents as joint educators became so curious and anxious that they started monitoring everything. So we as educators have to be now even more careful, because the visibility, the face of the school, the face of the institution is the teacher. So developing the professional skills and competency of the educators who are going online is a very important issue which every school head, academic head or management needs to address. Then what are the parameters that actually we can vary? So look at the three parameters that define the complete academic process. One of them is curriculum planning. Second one is delivery mechanism. And third one is the assessment techniques. Now all three will be redefined because we are no longer in those classrooms four walls. So we are into classrooms that are beyond walls. So curriculum planning, delivery mechanism, as well as the assessment techniques in every discipline need to be redefined. Keeping in view that what are the strategies, what are the tools that we can incorporate in our teaching learning processes online, that is being called as the new normal nowadays. That is what I'm going to address in my presentation. And now I will start sharing my screen. So here I am addressing the theme of the day, shifting dynamics, science curriculum and pedagogy. Now, how do we address the curriculum? That's the first part of the academic process. What is it that we can do about it? There are a few pointers that I would like to share with all of you. That first need is to move from structured curriculum to skill-based curriculum. That we had, even CC had emphasized upon this, but we were still into that core curriculum teaching only. So this is the time when we can focus more upon honing skills. We can focus more upon integrated intra or interdisciplinary curriculum. That talks about STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths all together. So that needs a huge effort as a team effort of all the subject coordinators of a particular grade to incorporate this phenomena into the structure planning. How do we hone the skills and develop competency of science particularly? That is what is required. How do we inculcate scientific aptitude and instill habits of synthesizing mind? Now, reference to synthesizing of mind, I would like to share with all of you that Howard Gardner talks about 5 habits of mind for 21st century. He mentions that there are 5, and out of which synthesizing mind is the most important habit that every learner, every adult, every individual needs to have. The other 4 are disciplinary, creative, respectful, and ethical. So how do we inculcate that habit of synthesizing? Synthesis, we all know, is one of the second highest levels of Bloom's cognitive levels that we talk about. So how should we restructure the curriculum so that we can incorporate at least few pointers out of this? Then something that is very relevant in the current scenario is that if we can frame our curriculum around a problem that's a real life problem, because we are having so many issues at the moment. And if we can pick up few of them which can be related to the concepts of physics or concepts of science or integrating the concepts of various disciplines into one, that would be a wonderful approach. I understand that needs a lot of planning, but that is what would make a difference. So that will become an authentic form, real life issue. Then how do we develop skills that are real world skills? How do we encourage creativity, innovation, and collaboration? That will happen when your curriculum is problem-centered curriculum. This is something very special which I learned and which some of the schools are already doing, making learners as partners in curriculum planning, so that every child has his or her learning path decided by him. And especially in these times when we are online, when Google serves as a Gyan portal, we could assign that responsibility to the learners. And learners taking the onus of their learning probably would emerge as independent learners, because they will be self-directed, self-assessed, self-paced, self-motivated. These are the times when we can create personas of independent learners. Those who can really go in for research-based, project-based, and even becoming the scientists of tomorrow. So that is what curriculum planning at the moment probably could be tuned to, so that it is more relevant to the current shifts that are happening in continuum. And there is still an uncertainty of how much curriculum will be for a particular grade, for a particular next session. So they're still uncertain. So as long as we can use that potential, the time gap for inculcating this kind of curriculum planning, probably it will make a huge difference to the whole teaching learning process. Now, what are the scientific abilities that we all need to focus? And repeatedly, my point has been, whenever you write a lesson plan, we don't write the learning outcomes as what will you learn as a part of core content, but what will be the learning outcome as the skills the child will learn after having done that content. That is very, very important for us. So as a teacher, I would request every subject teacher to list out the skills of their respective subjects, so that when I am planning any content, more than writing the learning objectives related to the content, I am focusing upon number one, the cognitive levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and secondly, the skills that I am focusing upon in that particular subject. So thinking of in that respect, the few of the scientific abilities, the skills that I have listed upon, just as a reminder to all of us. Observation skills. How do we develop the observation skills of the children in any content that you have planned? How does a child record his observation, represent and analyze data? Then once having taken that information from all resources, how does the child represent that data? It's a pie graph, it's a bar graph, it's some visual representation, it's a picture presentation, it's some PPT presentation or a paper presentation which a child would do. So how does the child represent that information visually? That is the visualization skill. Then how do we develop the cognitive skills in that particular learning process when we can make the child observe patterns in the information and ask relevant questions? Because asking questions is the basis of inquiry-based approach. Asking questions is the basis of developing critical thinking skills of a child, which is one of the most important skills in science subject, and as well as 21st century skills. Then how do we focus upon processing and analytic skills? Is the child able to evaluate the experiential learning, experimental learning, exploring learning outcomes? Can he validate the conceptual claims, the hypotheses that were made to begin with it? What are the problem solutions and what are the models the child can, as a learner, team, and with teacher as a facilitator, can really project? And the last one is probably the most important one, the comprehension inferential skill out of whatever you have done. So ability to communicate that to the world, to the group, to the society around, that this is what has been done, this is what is the output of this, and this is what could be multiplied as a product to serve the world at large. So these are few of the skills which we need to take care of in whatever lesson planning we are doing. Now next comes that how do we plan the lesson plan? That is something very, very important, because that lesson planning is actually something that is going on the online teaching. So every teacher needs to take time to plan that lesson plan, as Dr. Carys also focused, that small chunks of content. That is very important part of planning. So for online teaching, it's very, very important that we have small chunks interwoven with interactive activities, so that we can keep the learner engaged with us. We are not loading with the core content knowledge, because that is already available on the Google search engine, which we call as Gyan portal also, which is already available in the CBSE or NCERT textbooks or many other reference books. So we should be putting that concept into small chunks, and that should be interwoven with such wonderful activities which develop skills of science subject, so that child is wanting to be in your class, logging into your class. And then how do we create the engaging learning environment where the child can experiment, explore, he's engaged, he can exchange the ideas with the group, and he can express, and he can continue doing that process. So how do we develop collaborative planning, cooperative planning through this system will make a huge difference in making our teaching online an interesting one for the students. Learning outcomes, again, I'm repeating that we should be focusing writing learning outcomes as skills that will be learned during that lesson plan delivery. then we should be able to identify the cognitive levels of Bloom's taxonomy, that at what level we are teaching. Are we giving information? Are we teaching the or assessing the understanding, application, analysis, analytical, or synthesis? So at what level we are teaching, that is very important. How do we relate it to all the three domains of Bloom's taxonomy? Cognitive level is one domain. Second domain is affective domain. And the third domain is psychomotor domain. So how can we relate it to various domains? That is another important point of lesson plans. Finally, addressing differentiated learners. So how can we take care that every learner is progressing? Every child's learning curve is going higher and higher. So how do you address those differentiated learners, the gifted ones, the average ones, and the ones who need special attention? So how do you plan your lesson plan interwoven with minimum learning styles that you can take into account is VARC model, where you have a visual content, where you have an audio content, where you have a read and write content, and where you have manipulatives to be done as kinesthetic. And if you can include multiple intelligences into the lesson plan, there is nothing like it. But minimum, we should be focusing on incorporating the VARC model into our lesson plan. One of the important skills of 21st century is critical thinking. That is a part of inquiry based, and that indeed is a part of science, scientific aptitude and science teachings. So how do we really include that is inquiry based approach? So how do you put your lesson, how do you put your question, how do you really address what you want to do in a way that child is put into a thinking mode, child is inquiring about certain things? So that is what we need to address in our lesson plans. How do you encourage inquiry? Questions, asking questions, more important than finding the answers. That is the basis of encouraging inquiry-based approach. We got to give freedom to ask questions. And if you ask a question, give some time to the student to think over. Give them 30 seconds, 1 minute, think it over. Even you can go in for think, pair, and share activity, even on online platform. So how you can connect, if you are using any platform which has got breakout rooms where you put 4 or 5 children into one breakout room and they are discussing, and you can keep rotating the group till you get all of them back and have certain answers with you. You can have a poll survey done on an EdTech platform. You can use various assessment, formative assessment, continuum of learning within your teaching system, which Dr. Carys also mentioned in her this thing. That is something that will make your online teaching worthwhile, meaningful, for which students will log into your systems. So thinking skills and real world connects are something very, very important. We have been talking about it, but as long as we were in rooms, probably we were doing the normal structured teaching. So these are the golden opportunities for all of us to go into an innovation methods for curriculum planning, delivery mechanism, as well as assessment techniques. When you go for online teaching, it requires leadership. Therefore, teacher leadership, competency of teachers, proficiency in using tools, proficiency in using EdTech networks, platforms is very, very important. Everybody like me also started on these webinars only when the COVID-19 happened. Otherwise, I was going for the regular face-to-face workshops and trainings. Now, this was also new for me also. So we can always accept that this is a challenge, not only for the learners, for everyone who is going online, because we had not been into that arena at all. So let's accept that part and be a part as a learner with the students also. And we will all agree that students are way ahead of us in using technology. They can use any tech tool much faster than any one of us can do right now also. So how do you engage? How do you inspire? How do you reassure the child that we are all learning there? And then you lead your students. This is something that will be so handy for all of you. How do you include peer teaching in the same or vertical group? Imagine a 12th class student taking a topic connected to 11th class conceptually and delivering that lesson to the 11th class students. How much it will be developing the self-confidence of the child, boosting the self-esteem, and feeling that pleasure of being online as a teacher to the junior students, apart from reinforcing his own learning, because we all understand that we learn the best only when we are teaching. Imagine a 10th class student doing a same thing for the 9th class and vertically down. So you could have 1 or 2 sessions in which the peer teaching is going on. It could be within the same class also. The children who are gifted, the children who are way ahead of what we are doing, they could be made as the teachers of the day, teachers of a particular sub-content. That would be a wonderful opportunity for the teacher also, because the child would always prepare the best and the parents would be the happiest people to see their child on the screen. Because even in annual function, you must have seen the parent stays with the for the function as long as his child event is not over. So how the parents will become joint educators, how parents will realize that what are the difficulties to be online. That is what will give them an experience of what the teachers are also going through. So peer teaching is something that is so wonderful for an online system. And something which Mitra ma'am is already doing, we could do it for the children also. You put the learners as panelists. Imagine what is happening with the question and answer coming from the remaining. So you have 4 of the children coming as panelists on the screen, and the remaining students in the class asking them questions, and each one of them could be a specialist in one subtopic of a chapter, and that will be a wonderful interacting platform, giving confidence. In fact, developing the leadership skills of the children. Leadership, apart from this cooperation, communication, collaboration, how will it come up for every child? So you can rotate the groups of learners as panelists. It will be a wonderful idea to do that on the online system. This is similar to 6 thinking hats. Many of you must be knowing about it, Dr. De Bono's 6 thinking hats. But human jigsaw puzzle is like you can divide the whole class into, let's say, 5 or 6 groups as per the subtopics of a particular chapter. So each group studies that one particular concept in detail, prepares its presentation, questions and everything. And then when we come on the platform, it is one child from every group. So there are 5 children or 6 children, the groups that you divided. Pick up one child from everyone. Those 6 children are on the screen, online system, and they are delivering the concept. And imagine this will go for 6 days in continuation. So how much every child would learn, how much reinforcement would go on in this process, that will be a wonderful interactive learning from all 6 groups in 6 different ways. Because each group can be given a different tool to be used. You can always address them. You will use visuals, you will use audios, you will give worksheets, you will use interactives, you will use manipulatives, you will use some interactive system on the online system. So if you really work with them as a facilitator, you really guide them how it is done. In that process, you are also learning and also building leaders of tomorrow. So this is human jigsaw approach, which I think is very, very useful for every teacher to be used for online teaching. This, of course, is equally applicable in a traditional classroom, the face-to-face 4 walls of the classroom also. Certain teaching tips, something begin with EEL, which I call as exciting example from everyday life to provoke thinking. So once I come back to the screen, stop sharing, I'll show it to you. There was a question which I still remember when I was interviewed by the NCERT professor. I even know the name of the professor, Professor Saran, for an appointment. That we all know about when a pencil is put in a glass, it appears to be broken. Now, the question to me was that we know. You tell me what happens if I put it straight into the water. Of course, at that time, we were freshers from the university, so we knew the answers because it will become a convex lens and we will talk about that. But for a child, it would be an exploring moment to go on. Something similar that you can do, you have a glass full of water. You can have certain coins. Now let the children guess that how many coins you can insert into that full glass of water without letting it overflow. That would be a wonderful beginning for a lesson to be done, because that's what creates the interest for a child to be online, because you are doing something that is actually related to them, and that makes them come back to you every now and then, because you are always beginning your class with something exciting, which provokes thinking, which makes them think over, okay, what was going on, what can I do, when will I experiment, when will I get the result, when will I share with the teacher. So that curiosity factor you create when you do begin your class with something like this, or you can even leave the class with that kind of bent. Okay. How to use interactive tech tools and resources, that is another point. I'll try to demonstrate one or two if I can. Okay. Then how do you wrap up your lesson is also very important. Even in my own webinars, I always ask the participants to have A4 sheets and sketch pen so that they can keep drawing their mind maps, because mind maps are my favorite stuff to represent the learning, to represent on one page sheet how you can represent the whole concept, the whole topic. That's what is even the teaching aid for students who are preparing for competitive exam, and their mind map books for revising the whole syllabus at a glance. So how do you use a wrap up with a small mind map drawn by this last time when I did a seminar, a teacher showed me the mind map she had created on her tablet. It was so wonderful to see that. There could be questions also, recap question. What was the best learning moment? So you know what was the best in your delivery, this thing. What was, I'm not able to see. What was the best learning moment and what was the weakest learning moment, so that you know where you were not able to connect with the students, where the concept clarity or understanding or connectivity or communication with the child was not up to the mark. You can also talk about BIM, which I call as best interactive moment. Highlight, where did you enjoy the most? Were you showing the visuals? Were you asking the questions? Were you putting the problems? That's what. And most boring moment also. So it's a feedback to you straight away. You can do this survey poll right on any tool, on any edtech blog. They all have got these survey polls. So if you do it there and then, you will get to know immediate feedback of your teaching learning process. And that is something we should be mentally ready for. And even if the children are giving some feedback on the chat, we should be able to look at that with an open mind, growth mindset. Innovative mindset, growth mindset is also backstage nowadays. The best we are talking about is innovative mindset. I'm learning, I'm doing it, I'm on the way, I haven't tried it yet. The dialogues that make a difference for you yourself and even for the children. So now the certain resources that I would like to share with all of you. Something tinkering at home, a link that I have shared with Mitra ma'am on the mail. And if we can show one of them, we will try to show it to you. And this Deep Jyoti will help me out on that. Active learning, hands-on learning. So how the students can be shown certain videos where children have used the materials that are available within the household and created certain things which are based on certain concepts. So all these things are, you are having something at home only. You're not asking them to go and buy something. So how can that be done? That will be a wonderful idea, to have those activities where child is involved in creating something based on the concept that you have taught in the class. So it is application, synthesis, and creation. That higher levels of thinking and learning, higher order thinking skills that we used to talk about, HOTS. That is what we will be focusing upon if we can do tinkering at home. There is a website that I have mentioned, and all these website links are also with Mitra ma'am, which you can take it from her if you want to. And then how do you have effective use of videos? Now, when I was using this slide as effective, somebody asked me why it's not effective EFF. It is effective because it is the second domain of Bloom's taxonomy, and whatever we learn, whatever concept, application, content, core content, or skill that we learn, how is that transforming my behavior, my learnings, my skills? That is why it is effective use of videos, interactive links, and manipulatives. Physics classroom will try to demonstrate with Deep Jyoti after this. And how can you use virtual field trips? Many teachers are using this. And you can go to the platform Discovery Education. There are endless videos which are free. Google is full of resources as long as we have time and the competency to surf it effectively and find out what is relevant for me. So all these links, something that we can demonstrate, we will use that. Now, it is not only that everything has to be online only. There is a video that I've already shared with Mitra ma'am also, how a teacher has created an anatomy of human body, a short video with her mobile. If we can play that, he will show it to you. There is another conceptual connect, how a teacher has created a moon phases flip book idea, that it is forward and backward both ways working out, showing out all the phases of the moon in a month. Finally, we come back to assessments. Now, this is something we are all as teachers very, very conscious about. And if we remember what CC had introduced, assessment for learning. So you have to understand, what are you doing assessment for? Are you doing assessment for learning, assessment in learning, assessment as learning, or assessment of learning? All four of them have got different concepts. So look back at the CBSE manual to understand that what these are for. One. So assessment of learning is whatever I have taught. Okay, I want to assess that whether it has been learned by the child or not. Assessment in learning means you make the child realize that what has not been clear and what he should be working upon together with you. So it is, assessment is not for the purpose of giving certain marks or grades, but it is for the purpose of assessing me, myself as a teacher, as well as the learning outcome of a student. And most important thing which we learned even in CC was creating rubrics for every type of content delivered. If you are delivering or expecting them to have visuals, so the rubrics will be different. If it is a read and write worksheet, it will be different. If it is a video. So for every type of content delivered, you got to create rubrics so that a child knows what is the criteria on which I would be evaluated. So those criteria, so that he understands, if I'm getting 5 out of 5, why it is that? If I'm getting 3 out of 5, where what is missing and what is it that I need to focus upon. So there are certain tools that can be used even for formative assessments. Kahoot.com I have been using so well, Edpuzzle and Quizlet. There may be many more. Even Dr. Carys mentioned few of them, but all of them are free. And even in the free version, the basic version, the teachers can use endless resources from any one of the tools. It is only a question of finding out what do you want, does it serve your purpose or not, and how is it suitable for what am I trying to do in the online learning process. And with that, I would like to stop sharing and go back to Deep Jyoti, if we can really show. I will stop sharing. Yes. Can you, Deep Jyoti, can we see it? I am not able to see it. Can you just help me out in that?
Yeah, the physics classroom, like the page is like online. You can
physics classroom is there. So scroll it down. Let the teachers see that, because I'm not able to see the full screen. So I'm just seeing. So teachers, this is one platform where there are all possible concepts of physics. Now, how anyone interactive can be used for teaching or for evaluation, or for quiz, or for interactive activity, that depends on you. So this particular thing that I am showing to you is on reflection with concave mirrors. So how a teacher can use it with quiz as 4 teams, or individual a child can be given that particular step. So now we have gone to that first process because it is related to formation of images with a concave mirror. So you will find the instruction that it involves identifying the corresponding curved mirror images for each of the 10 object positions. So the interactive will tell you the various positions you will have to identify. Let's go to the next screen, baby. Deep Jyoti, let's go to the next one. Make it full screen. Yes. So when you see it, again, they have given 10 positions. So you can ask the child which position you want to try it, or that is one method of giving an open option. Or you can say that I want you to answer this. So let's have the position number, object position 3. Click on that and we will reach the next one. So when you reach here, you can see the object, where the object is. Now you have to click on where the image will be formed. So Deep Jyoti, click on anything. So let's see what happens. Click on any image that you see, wherever you think it will be. So what does it say? Sorry, that is not correct image. So it is a self-learning system too, self-learning platform too. So think about how object positions affect. So either you could go to the tutorial, you can show them tutorial concave mirror. Deep Jyoti can connect on that tutorial. So that child can go to the tutorial and he can learn everything about that. When you see that, scroll down, you will find out all the images positions given to the child. So he can go back. Let's come back to the position once again. Let's go back to the interactive. So come back to the mains menu. So we can go to the other image. Let's go try another one. So let's see where object position 4. Let's click on that. The moment you click it right, oh, they are all backside. So let's take some position front. Go back once again, where we can see the result as positive. Go back to these positions of images. Yes, let's take a position number 3. Have we done it before?
Yeah.
So let's take the position number 5 or something, so that we know. Or let's take some position which is in front of the object. So let's go to object 6. So how this becomes so okay, fine. Now we have an object between focus and the pole of the mirror. Where do you think the image will be formed? Somebody can give an answer in the chat and Deep Jyoti will click that. Anyway, you click anything wherever you want, Deep Jyoti.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Again, so it is showing sorry. So you can keep trying it. That is what one is hit and trial method. One is knowing that you validate the answer. One is, if you don't know, go back to the tutorial to learn it. So how this simple interactive website is giving us an opportunity of conducting a test. Let's go to the positions, some other position where we can mark it and show it to them, right? Go back. Let's say position number 5 or something. Where is it? Oh, you are getting the position will be at the mirror. It will be magnified one.
Okay, okay, we can try. I think we tried it with this one maybe.
Yes. Okay. Okay. The object is beyond C, so the image will be formed between F and C. So let's try out between F and C, and it will be smaller in size too. So let's have that image beyond C, between F and C. Can you mark the image? I don't think my pointer will work out for you.
No, I can go, like, if you tell me, like, go to the right direction.
Between C and F, you go to the image which is the smallest one.
Okay.
So once again, sorry. So the child can keep trying, and if you get the correct answer, you will get congratulations. Yes. Oh, there we get at least one. That's thank you. So now when you go to the return to the main menu, you will see a gold star because you have done it right. So how this can be used as an activity for teaching, for understanding, for validating, for group, for quiz, that depends upon the teacher how you are using it. I hope that is enough of a demo for them. Can we show them any virtual trip? Or let's show the video of that human body, if we can do that. This is discovery. Okay, fine, we can have that video also. That is also a nice one. The tour to a nuclear reactor. How do you have a virtual trip? So you can click on chapter 1. Click on chapter 1. Click on chapter 1, the unit 1, yes, the video would start. And you will have a virtual trip to the nuclear center of United States. So let's have the sound also. Network issues, but anyway.
Yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Morgan here, and we would like to warmly welcome you to the U.S. Department of Energy's Idaho National Laboratory. You guys, this place is so cool. It is literally filled to the brim with amazing nuclear research facilities.
So this is only an idea to show you that how can you use the virtual tours which are already on the website. That's enough. Let's go to showing them the video the teachers have made. Thank you so much, Deep Jyoti, for doing this for me. Okay, let's go to the video of human body.
No issues.
Okay, let's go that human body video.
Just a second, ma'am.
Huh.
Just a second.
It's only an idea to share with all of you, the participants here, that how simple things can be monitored, modified, redefined by all of you. So look at this, something a teacher who had uploaded, which I had shared, how she has made this with the help of only papers. But how this can be used as a teaching aid is even, so open the flaps one by one. So as you open that, look at the way the teacher has worked so hard to put it in that format. Let it play, Deep Jyoti, yes. So how every step the teacher can stop, interact with the student, ask the students, teach the students, have a quiz in the class, have them as panelists to answer the questions. The only requirement is an innovative mindset, growth mindset, receptive mindset, which will keep on accepting, keep on innovating, keep on aligning oneself. That's wonderful. Let's show them the moon's flip Facebook also after this.
Yeah. We'll finish this.
Yeah, let this be completed. Little more is left. Imagine the effort of the teacher to create this as a teaching aid for her students. It's not only that everything has to be in technology, everything has to be really something interactive on that only. You can also create your own teaching aid, and we can always start sharing with our parallel teachers. Now look at the way teacher has done the whole concept. This book is forward and backwards, explaining all the phases of the moon. So when you open the first page, let the sound be there because she is explaining herself only.
Can you hear the sound?
No, I am not able to hear you. I can ask the participants. But anyway, they can see that she's explaining that two phases of the moon have been put up. And as she turns the flap, so she says one phase. So when you turn the book, the other phase would be there. So she keeps, when you go forward, it is one phase. Now she's reversed it, showing you that it becomes the other phase in the other type of the moon phases. So look at the way she has created this book, which is forward and backward both ways. Such an innovative idea of a teacher to do that. And you can all have the privilege of having this from your host, Madam Mitra Saha. Imagine a child having this kind of booklet to study about the phases of moon. Thank you, Deep Jyoti. We can just stop it. And with that, I would like to come back to all the participants, and hopefully we have been able to share some learning experiences which are worth application, worth utilization in your online teaching platforms. Thank you, Mitra ma'am.
Ma'am, thanks to you. I had written down a few questions before as I was preparing for the webinar, and I realized you've answered all of them in your
great.
presentation.
That's nice.
It was so beautiful. I'm really zapped at everything that Carys shared and everything and you spoke at such length. And I'm sure everyone watching us and their lovely remarks, comments coming on the social media stream as well. And that says it all. And I'm sure our invited guests are also waiting to come in. And since it's 8:37, and therefore, without much of an ado, I would like to keep my questions. Maybe still there are two questions in mind, which I will not stop myself from asking. One to Carys and the other to Veena ma'am. But before that, let me call in all the invited guests and invite them to put their question. But as I keep them adding. Maybe Dipjyoti can help me in adding all the guests. Carys, anything? Any comments, any questions for Veena ma'am, or Veena ma'am, any comments, any questions for Carys?
I don't have any questions. Just it's interesting. I've to look at some of the pedagogies that are suggested, and I have put a onto the Padlet page. I've actually added a column about evidence-based education. Evidence-based pedagogies, and added Barrett Rosenshine's paper on there. I think there's some really interesting things to look at there.
Thank you, and they really work very well, because children, when they take the onus of their own learning, they go a step beyond. So
yeah, and I think
one step that makes an ordinary person an extraordinary. So that one step, they can always make a difference, and that's what probably we need to do that.
The issue we have at the moment with the remote learning is that the evidence base is based very much around very heavily planned curricula, which we weren't in a position to do. We had to really do it on the fly. So a lot of the evidence that maybe as a university-based teacher we would look at to implement into our pedagogy, we haven't been able to integrate it all in, because it hasn't always been appropriate for something that's been done, put together very quickly.
Great. Absolutely. And one thing that I would like to implement right away, maybe from next week, and that is a webinar where students will be the panelists. And thank you for that idea.
That's a very good idea.
Absolutely. Good idea. Absolutely. We may not have a live streaming at the beginning, but we can always have it internally. And once students are confident, we can always have a live.
Do let me in for sure.
Oh, wonderful. I always say, Veena ma'am, her enthusiasm, it's infectious. So, I will keep the two questions of mine at bay right now and invite Jonali. Jonali, you can start your question, and you can put your question to the panelists of your choice.
My question, I'd like to ask Carys.
Your voice, please.
Jonali, a bit louder.
Okay, so my question goes to Carys. See, the whole issue of pandemic is lagging us behind. Like the schedule is behind, the course is going slow, and what you have rightly remarked as recovery curriculum. Now, recovery curriculum, I want to know, suppose after reopening of the school, if you found that whatever we have taught, probably 50% of them have received and nothing is been going into their brain. So in that case, what is your plan? What do you suggest to do more about? How do you go about it?
I think it's been really difficult for our teachers because some students have engaged very well with the online curriculum, and some students, of course, have done pretty much nothing when they've been away in school. So that first step is looking to see where the children are at. But what we don't want to do is have them straight into school and suddenly be testing them, because that's going to put them off completely. So using assessment for learning based tasks to pick up any misconceptions in the key concepts, and then making sure
just one more. You have said that assessment of learning. So could you be specific in terms of science? I mean,
in terms of what? Sorry, Janali.
In terms of teaching any topic, for example, suppose what kind of, say, suppose any topic, just what kind of assessment would you like to take forward?
I think it's going to depend on the topic. But it's going to have to be something that's been looked at. Certainly on the learning website, there's the best evidence science teaching resources, and they have some really good resources, that little tasks that can be done on there that are based around what we know are the common misconceptions, but a lot of science topics, not everything's up on there yet. Those tasks are really good for unpicking students' misconceptions and then being able to move them forwards. And I think that's what we're going to have to work on, but doing it in a way that is not pressurizing our students and making them really worried that they may have fallen behind.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Janali. Thank you, Carys. And may I now call upon Dinesh. Dinesh.
Yeah.
He always believes in teaching science and maths in a different way. And I'm sure today you have received a few things to share and take forward.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, thank you again. It was very informative session. But one challenge that we all are facing here, and I also see an opportunity, as you mentioned. My question is open to both the panelists. I mean, I would be very happy if both of you can give some insight on the point. Is that I think it's an amazing time where we can demystify a lot of things about science education, right? Science education is most of it's assumed that science is only that we learn in the labs. But now I think our home is our lab, and we can learn a lot of things when it comes to science from the readily available material around us, and we can also involve the whole family in it, right? Because there is a huge need of, especially in our country, a huge need of making the whole society develop a scientific temperament, right? So, what kind of activities do you suggest where we can learn science together with the family, like students and parents learning together? And it's not related to only creating TLFs, but can you give some ideas or whatever your experience have been in this space in terms of how can we make it more oriented towards understanding the science of it, right? Rather than just creating a model, but more than that, can we do some experiments in home? And if you can suggest, I think all of us in the audience as well as the viewers get some insight how to make science learning at home with the parents.
Veena, do you want to go first?
It's okay, you can go. It's okay, perfectly fine, yours.
And there's lots of resources out there. It's a very, very big question. But I totally agree that, science is everywhere. And certainly my students used to always say to me that I have a habit of turning everything into a science lesson. And it's upskilling. Almost parents need to be on board with that. And if they're interested, then they'll take their students, their children's learning forwards. But certainly some of the links, like the museums, the science museums, they've added a lot of learning resources and specifically things that can be done at home. And just being outside and asking the right questions. So trying to stimulate children's curiosity by asking them, well, why do you think that? How could we prove that? What experiment could we do to show that what you think is correct? And even with very young children, that works really nicely. And so it's really about, as Veena was saying, about the questioning, about that freedom to ask questions. And us as adults, whether we're parents, teachers, because parents are educators, asking the right questions to the children to make them really think.
Yeah. I would like to add that I think there were a long time back when we used to use the word bala. Building as teaching aid, right? Learning aid.
Learning aid.
Now it should become HALA, home as learning aid. That is one thing. Now, simple things of physics like torque. Why do you have handles of the doors at one extreme? If you have in the center, what will happen? Let the child have that exploration on an old door at least of the home. I know parents will be having. Then how do you have mixing of colors at home and then showing them that? How you use even the kitchen, use a pressure cooker and use a normal open pan for boiling certain stuff. These are all simple things which children can observe. Even putting at the fuse of that main circuit, if it goes off, how do you do that? How the circuit breaks, how the circuit, these are all. So it's a question of finding out what kind of tips you can share with the children or with the parents. In fact, there is a platform where people are sharing tips with the parents to use their home as learning aids. So they are doing these webinars or these videos for parents.
Yes.
So they are interacting with parents and giving them tips. And Mitra, I will share that link of from the Facebook with you to show that how they are doing these things with the parents.
Yes, that will be helpful, ma'am.
Yeah. That is what helps out. So Bala has to change to Hala.
This is the reason why I put up this question was because I could see like a lot of parents are also there in the webinar. So I hope that these ideas can be useful for them. And we are also compiling a kind of a booklet or a kind of a resources which parents can use, because I think as Carys mentioned, questioning is important, but they need to be kind of we need to give some guidelines to them so that they can start questioning. I think, yeah.
Give them the link of discovery education. Give them the link of tinkering at home. I mean, there is a child who has created a like claw sort of stuff where claw's head would be used to pick up the clothes and one with the Velcro would be used to pick up some other things from the corners or from the back side.
So certainly
there is a video which probably you can see it later on with Mitra. There is a child who has created a turbine with that glasses and then that CD disc being used, and he's using it under the water to show that how turbine works. It is only the question of getting an exposure to such kind of activities, and there are enough on online resources. So Google search engine, Gyan portal, how good you are at surfing that, what kind of word you put in order to find out what you want, and how fast you can get there, that is what it is there. There are so many websites which address physics, chemistry, bio, all in interactive formats. All in interactive. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
on the Padlet resources that I've put up, the STEM learning, a lot of them have sections or things you can do at home, and those are really targeted at parents. So I think a lot of parents are scared that sometimes maybe they don't know enough to be able to do some of these things. But it's not about needing to know it. It's about asking the questions and discovering.
Definitely that. I also mentioned that you are also that letting the children ask questions is the first step. And in reference to journalist question, I would also like to add that how do we identify the gaps of learning? How do we identify the gaps of core content that has not been done? And how do we have those modules ready for the children to be shared with them if there is a gap in that learning? You can have fact cards for especially in needs children, fact card sheets. You can make that. You can make visual kinds of worksheets where there are symbolic representations given for any concept, so they can relate the concept, those visuals also. So, you have to have that innovative mindset. You have to have the growth mindset. You have to keep thinking, and more important is interacting with your collaborative. So create learning communities. Actually, the way Dr. Carys has connected with us from there, we can have more and more people joining from everywhere, and then we share the resources and learning with each other. So it's a learning communities that need to be created. So even the digital divide that we are creating, there are still areas where we can't reach with technology. Right. So how those teachers are using WhatsApp only or certain mediums, talks only, messages only, to convey that we are there for you. So first thing is making parents and children feel comfortable that we are there for you. So how do you connect with them? And then how do you communicate with them? And how do you involve them? That is why parents should be having webinars to understand that what does it take to be parenting and teaching at home when this lockdown period is going on. Right.
Thank you.
When there was this term learning community used by you, Veena ma'am, Jonali and me were smiling because just today we were having a chat in our WhatsApp group of private schools of Assam, and this is exactly the term that Jonali used, that yes, we have to be learning communities and and learn from each other. And last year at this time we were discussing layered questioning and layered assessment. We were being directed by Carys, and I do not know how much we will be able to use it in the current scenario, but yes, that learning is with us and we are trying to implement Carys and keep enriching our lives in this way all throughout. Now, moving over to Pankaj. Pankaj, if you could come in and your turn for a question, panelist of your choice.
Yeah, I'll need a few seconds to set up my
Sir, your
voice is...
Yeah, can you not hear it?
Yeah, it's better.
Can you hear now? Yeah.
Yes.
It's better.
So I'll need a few seconds to set up my point before. The second thing is that don't kill me, please. I always thought, practicals are a way to inflate the marks of the science students. So, yeah. So
I agree on that because I face a lot of flack for not giving that full marks to all students in a uniform way. I faced it while I taught in Bombay and I face it even now. And I do not agree. Absolutely. You are bang on that.
But even the lowest marks that would be received out of 30 would be 25 or so. And maybe in the theory part...
Little louder, please. Keep your mouth.
I don't know why there is a problem. Whereas in the theory part, the marks would be, let's say, 40 out of 70, and in the practical, it would be 25 out of 100. Now we are having our revenge that CBSE has now given practical in political science and history and all that. The point is, the thing that I want to set up is that why have practicals if we are talking about, the construction of knowledge, motivation and all that. But when in reality, in the schools, when the practicals are done, it's still done, let's say, titration. I had great fun in class 11 and 12 when the thing turns from pink to white or white to pink, I forgot. But that's what I remember. Or let's say finding the focal length of a lens. So now when Carys said that you do projects and at home, they can do practicals. So how do you marry it, especially with class 10 and 12 board students, when we are constrained by the curriculum and by the question patterns? We cannot escape that, especially for 10 and 12 board exams, year 11 and 13. And the beautiful things that you were asking when Dinesh had asked his question. So how do you do it, Carys?
Oh, I wish I had all the answers. I think in terms of effective practical work, it is really difficult. And that Gatsby document that I will put up onto the Padlet page has lots of really good guidelines for how we can make practical work effective for enabling the content and the theory to be taught through the practical work. So we can't teach everything through practical work, and that wouldn't be a good thing to do. But the usefulness of the practical work, obviously, if our students are going on further with science, they need to be able to use the equipment. They need to understand how the theories have been developed using the practical work, and they need to be familiar with all of the equipment as well. But it's the engagement as well with the practical work. So I know that there was a quote actually, though, because practical work can be really tricky to manage in a school, and often it doesn't work, and you feel it's wasted learning time. So setting how practicals are set up to become effective, and often that does mean a teacher demonstration is the best way of doing it, or using a simulation to enhance what's in the classroom. I think that those guidelines on the Gatsby Good Practical Guide are the way forwards in terms of developing effective practical work, because not all practical work is effective. You're quite right.
Absolutely.
Yes, when we're just fiddling around with things, we're not using our learning time effectively.
Right.
They are namesake. They're absolutely namesake. And, you know,
Thanks,
we have...
Carys. Thank you.
Absolutely. A very pertinent point raised by Pankaj, and that is my favorite topic, where, like, you know, absolutely bang on, where if Sharmishta, Chandrani will agree with me, and, like, you know, we are as externals expected to give the full marks in practicals with or without the students knowing the things, and
Exactly.
and it defies the very need of practicals. And where you have those observation tables and everything made, maybe Dinesh will also, you know, be able to speak more on that. Like, you know, it's not experiment. It's like there is a maintained structure, and where we are expecting students to do certain things only. No exploration, no really, you know, they cannot do things on their own. So maybe later on, if time permits, we would like to hear more from Veena ma'am too in the Indian context. But before we go on to that, let me call upon Sharmishta. Sharmishta, your question to the panelist of your choice, please. Sharmishta joins us from Mumbai.
Thank you, Mitra. Thank you, Mitra. This, I think, is in general. I mean, it's not basically a question related to what about innovative learning, online learning. Don't you feel that a little bit of the interaction between the students when we are face to face with them, that is a different, feeling or experience? Don't you think that is also very essential also, where we are, live? Online is a different thing, but what about that interaction, face to face? You are able to see the 50 or 60 students in front of you, and you are able to see their expressions, whether they're able to understand or not. So that part, I think, will be missed. Actually, I am missing that very much when I am teaching online to my students. I really miss that. So what is your just view on that? That's all I want to know. Any ma'am, I mean, Veena ma'am or Carys ma'am, anybody can answer.
Should I?
Yeah, Veena, you go ahead.
Sharmishta ma'am, that is something that we talked about, is humanizing technology.
Uh-huh.
Like there was something that I did was emotional intelligence as part of we all when we are on online. So how can you read the expressions of children? How can you read their gestures? How can you see their nods like this or nods like this? So how much observant you are with the children? Because when I do webinars for teachers also, I keep on, addressing them by name. Oh, this was more of an addressing, so I could not connect that way. Otherwise, you are connecting with all of them, putting a problem and asking them continuously to put their answers in the chat box. And I keep on reading, oh, wow, adorable Aarti has written this. Oh, wow, I see this answer is this. Oh, keep on going, your number is still low. So like whatever interactive visual you have put, whatever question you have put, you have to interact with them. So like I can see Pankaj sir is grimly looking at me. Oh, what is she saying about? It is I'm telling you. Now, Janani is smiling away and putting her hand like this. She is happy about that. She's observed Pankaj sir. Dinesh sir is smiling away and you are laughing at heart. And Chandrani is still in a minute. What am I going to ask? These are the facial expressions that I can read as a person in charge, host of the lesson that is going on. And the moment I start addressing them by name, that becomes something very highly. So I always start my class with add an adjective to your name. So let me have an adjective for Mitra. I have given her already meticulous Mitra. Because in planning, I have to really, I told her I haven't read the second mail. You just tell me when I have to speak. So minute by minute, like sincere Sharmishta. So when I address you like that in the class, when I say punctual Pankaj, it makes a lot of difference for the child when you are addressing the child. So how can you add that bit? So like the example, I had kept the glass here when I want to show that. he asked me, everybody knows that it looks like a broken pencil, but tell me if we put it straight, what it will like. Then he filled the glass completely and then said, you have 10 coins. Tell me how much can I fit in without letting it overflow. That was way back in 1977 I'm talking about. Look at the competency of asking question of those kinds of lecturers and professors to put us that, where is it? So this is what so when we don't have to wait for any concept to be taught just because in curriculum it has to be given at a particular stage. Because everything connects from KG to senior classes in continuation. So at what level you are doing, that will make a difference. So I always have something ready for me. So address them by name, give them adjectives, keep on reading their remarks in the chat column, and keep on appreciating, keep on saying something or the other. So everybody knows, teacher is noting me. The teacher. I tell them, let me see your sheet, Pankaj sir. I am not seeing you. Hold your sheet and show it to me. So I'm like, as a teacher, all eyes open and all ears open to that. So that's what probably I would suggest. Rest, Carys can suggest something more.
Yeah, I believe we have 2 minutes past 9, and Carys probably is tied up. Carys, I mean, are you there for 5 more minutes? Maybe?
Yeah, no, I can stay for another few minutes. Sorry, I just had to mute my mic because I've got a very vocal dog sat next to me.
I know. Okay, so Chandrani, if you would like to come forward with your question. Hi.
No, all my questions are answered by Veena ma'am, by Carys. So I got all my answers. I came up with a and I mean, while ma'am was discussing about how to do and how to make it interactive, and it's the same way that I tried my best to do that. I asked question and I asked children to write the answers on the chat box. So they are always active.
I believe Chandrani, we cannot hear you. Yeah.
Children have something colored glasses, something plain, something rainbow in your hands and keep on using them.
Hello, Chandrani.
Yesterday I was doing a session on leadership, 6 thinking hats. I had all the 6 hats ready and I was using one hat one by one. So everybody was smiling. I mean, that is what is practical way of doing it. If I'm wearing a blue hat, tell me what I'm doing if I'm wearing. So I was using my hat, so that made it so interactive for everyone around there.
Absolutely. I think it's
and basically when we are talking about this, this practical thing has actually what ma'am said, that we are just teaching them the concept. We are not preparing for the future where they are going to lead real life problem. So all my questions are answered. I'm absolutely very thankful to Veena ma'am and Carys that all my questions are answered. I was looking for, everybody's talking about the problem, nobody's talking about the solutions. So basically I got all my answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chandrani. And Carys, maybe my question to you, what I got hooked in when you were presenting that in England, in the primary classes, the science is no more a part of your centralized testing. And the same thing is coming up now in India as well. Now, what's your take on it? Do you think it's needed, science is needed right from, let's say, grade 1? Or is it okay to not to have science in the lower classes and focus only on language and maths? Or comments?
No, we need science right from the beginning.
Absolutely.
I mean, I may be slightly biased here, but I think as well for children to shape their career aspirations and to understand that science is for everybody, then it needs to continue to be a core subject. So science is still a core subject at primary level in the UK, and but we found that it's become less of a priority where the government took it out of our standardized testing. But we're really fighting to make it less of an invisible core subject, because it is core up to GCSE. And if we haven't got the students hooked into it and loving science at primary, we're going to really struggle with them when we get them up into those higher levels. And we're not going to be developing those scientists that we really need going forwards.
Absolutely. Even I think the same way. And, is science more important than language? Definitely not. Is Are humanities lesser important than science and maths? Definitely not. But then a student should be choosing humanities, should be choosing English literature for the love of the subject, not because he or she is weak in science and maths, which is generally the criteria. Oh, maths I cannot do, so I will take arts. Why? Take it up because you love English literature, because you want to, to do liberal arts maybe. So Pankaj's expression tells me that Pankaj might be having something to add. Pankaj,
Yeah.
and he has
Just one clarification.
Yeah.
When you said, Carys, that it's not part of the exam, standardized exam, you mean what? Key stage 1, 2, or what?
Key stage 2. So our end of primary, our 11
So,
when they're 11 years old.
Science becomes part of the standardized test from key stage 3, KS3.
Yeah, we don't have standardized tests anymore at key stage 3, so it's GCSE.
So directly GCSE. Directly GCSE.
Yeah, but every student has to take GCSE science.
Oh, then let's say, suppose, just imagine a child hasn't studied science till, let's say, year 9. Is that possible?
No, they would have. It's a core subject, so they have to have studied it.
But they just don't have to appear in the exam.
No, they all have to take the exam at the end of the GCSE. At the end of year 11, every student must take it.
Up to these key stages, they don't. If they choose not to appear in the exam, they may not appear.
Yes, I think if they didn't appear for the exam, obviously they'll get no grade. Which would count with the school's accountability. We make sure that our students are in as many exams as possible.
But I don't.
We can't take them out of the exam. We can't disapply them.
Well, if they are bound to appear in the GCSE, then it doesn't make sense for them not to appear in the key stages.
No, they have to take all the exams, but yeah.
Absolutely. And we had not seen Prasanna sir all through the webinar. Probably he had certain issues at his end. So Prasanna Karmarkar sir is joining us from Kolhapur, Maharashtra. He is the associate professor and head of the department, computer science, Shivaji University. Prasanna sir, it would have been nice to have you in the webinar right from the beginning. And but anyways, before Carys leaves, maybe if you wish to come in and pose your question, and sir, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Actually, I've seen all the lectures from since 7 o'clock. I've seen everything, but I was on a wrong link. So right now I am linked to this panelist. But I really appreciate both the sessions. I've attended everything. My question: can I ask one question?
Of course you can.
Yeah, my question is to Veena ma'am. The way you spoke was really nice. I really appreciate your speech and the experience what you shared. My question to you is that how we can identify the passion among a student, and how we can attach a purpose to that particular passion, and how we can convert that passion into profession.
Well, Prasanna, I think the very first thing is we have to understand what is it that ignites the motivation in a child. Because I can remember my own thing, that something that somebody would say to me, and I will prove it and show it to you that I can do it. So that willpower, that motivation, everyone, including you and me, also have to identify what is it that ignites that spark of learning, motivation, and be persistent and persevering for what you want to be. That's the first thing. So, and that bent can be given only when we allow the child in the initial years to do whatever the child wants to do. What the parents are doing after school, this class, this summer camp, that. So they are just putting them into the classes. There is no choice for the child.
Yeah.
So we have to give those options to the children in order to find out what do they want to do. In my own school, when I was principal, till 5th standard, do whatever you want to know, and we will have choices only from 6th onward. At least child is little bit mature to tell, or you teacher by that time have identified that he has got a skill or she has got a skill in this particular arena. So unless we are able to identify the spark in the child, what ignites his motivation, what keeps him going on that persistence, we cannot do. And that is true for EV ourselves also as persons. So as a teacher, if you can spot that talent, spot that spark in a child, you can make him an independent learner, self-directed learner. Give him a problem and tell him, go and find it out. Wherever you need my help, come back to me. So how do you create that learning path for the child for self-learning? Probably would be one way, according to me, because with my experience of almost from 1977 to 2010, till I was in the school education, my experience with my children has been that only. That allow them to at least pursue something that they are passionate about, means you are continuously finding them doing that thing because you have that particular spark is there. So identify that spark, let them explore, let them, even for the experiment, there were many times the projects would be bought by the parents and the children from the market only. They will not even prepare it. But there were some other children who will do that in my school. कि मैं मुझे करना है, you tell me how to do it. So they will do it in the school in the teacher's presence, showing that what he is collecting, what he wants to do, what she wants to do. So that is what the difference was between an ordinary, hum bana ke leke aa gaye, and they will have that ready project with them and then submit it to the examiner. That is why, as Mitra ma'am was saying, we'll end up giving 100 on 100 for the practicals, whatever it may be. So this is somewhere we are also equally responsible in that process, but somehow, because marks make a lot of difference to that. So as a person, teacher, how can you spot that talent in your class? That's what is your guidance further to make him an independent learner, self-directed learner, where you just need to assist him. Okay, you want this? Go ahead and find out this. That's what probably I think. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more question to you, ma'am. I'm sorry, I really like your lecture. So I'm asking
perfectly fine. Because I come from a practical field from India only, so I can probably do that.
Prasanna sir, just let me come in for a moment. Carys, in case you are in a hurry, I mean, feel free. I mean, it's okay. We will not, if you want to say us a goodbye for tonight, you have already given us so much of time. But then we would love to have you over, but it's your choice, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm afraid I may need to go. Otherwise, I may not get my dinner.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you, Mitra ma'am, for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to see. It's been lovely to see so many familiar faces, and to virtually visit Guwahati.
Absolutely.
And please, if everybody keeps sharing on the Padlet link, and hopefully we'll get a really good there'll be a lovely learning community there. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bye
bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, stay safe, stay healthy, stay blessed, stay protected.
Yes, Prasanna sir. Now your question, please.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Veena ma'am, I'm not asking you whether you are getting late. I take that privilege.
No, it's okay. Even my daughter is waiting, but then it's okay. She can wait. Tell me.
Yeah, ma'am, through your experience, please share your experience that our education system or our students, they want to, generally what I've observed in my teaching experience is they want to do a job in a company. Their ultimate aim is to be a job seeker. What do you think what we need to make so that they can become an entrepreneur or a job creator, according to you?
I would recommend that read the book Rich Dad and Poor Dad. Okay. How we as parents inculcate that beginning. पढ़ोगे तो ये होगा, आपको ये नौकरी मिलेगी तो ये होगा. So we are everything related to a job career only. That's one thing. And the environment in which we grow around us, because if you are not from a business background, it doesn't give that opening to the child also, because we are financially scared out of it. So how can you give that financially support, moral, social, emotional support to a child to go on experimenting and doing. So edupreneurship, entrepreneurship is something that needs experimenting from middle class families or non-business class families like ours. So if that mindset can be given to the child, because now if you see the younger generation is coming up with that, the way children prepared masks from a particular school, it was on the website, on the links also, and they were how the children are preparing the glass shield, protective shield from 3D printers, that students of only 10th and 11th. How children are addressing bullying on social media, the children of Pathway School and some other school, if you read the links, you will find that children are doing wonderful. The coming generation, of course, is not like ours, who will be yes ma'am or yes papa, but they are experimenting, but they are also supported by the parents, because the parents are also nowadays open to that, because they know the world tomorrow will not be the same. And the way layoffs, the pink slips, the professional things are going on at right now, everybody thinks that I should be doing something of my own. Look at the way people have gone to the extent of creating vegetation on the terrace in a small place. So there is a Gurgaon lady, she is selling those ideas only for 5,000 rupees. How can you grow vegetables round the year on your terrace in a small 10 by 12 area? There are IITians group who have created vegetable organic farming. There are people who are doing farming hydroponics with water only. This is all younger generation, because they can defy the parents and move according to what they want. So it's only question of mindset. The current generation, I personally feel, is into that already. We have grown in a different mindset altogether. Because हमारे लिए था कि if you don't have a job, this will happen. If you don't pass, this will not happen. If you don't pass the school, you will not go to school. So there was always a condition, cause and effect that was given to us. So that is why there are problems. That is why I keep on saying, teach the students failure as a skill.
Yeah,
let them fail. Let them. I tell the parents also, don't run for the grade 1, rank 1. If the child is not well, don't help the child to prepare. Let the child fail in the initial classes only, so that he has his own desire to learn. The child has own willingness to learn. I mean, the parents are like helicopter parents. Parents are hovering over. It is parents' aspiration which the child has to fulfill. But current generation is coming up somehow, and I see the future bright for them, because they will be better off, and we will be better off with they being better off. That's what I probably feel, and I hope it satisfies to you to some extent.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You won't believe it. Smart students. From my own school student community, I can tell you, जो सबसे ज़्यादा like offbeat थे, troubleshooter थे, they have emerged as winners in the life.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
Street smart. The 11th class boy will be doing the business of buying the handsets, mobiles, and second handset and repairing them and selling them to the others. He was doing it in 11th class. I'm business kar raha hu, business. So but then probably parents have to accept that. We as a teacher have to supplement that. That is the only difference. If you can supplement anybody, even one child in that process, probably our life as a teacher is done.
Absolutely.
And ma'am, what is your opinion about nowadays students are too much into this gaming like PUBG and other social media? Are they lacking purpose, or what is going wrong?
That is, if some parents ask me, he is too much on the screen time or mobile, I said, how much do you use? First tell me that. First, tell me that how much you are using. When do you put off your own laptop? When do you put off your own mobile? And when you are completely without these laptops or these mobile techniques, and then you are with the child. So why blame the child? In fact, parents are giving mobile handset and these games to the younger children because they want to do something else. So the question of child is not getting into that. Parent is giving that as a medium to keep him engaged in something or the other. So children are not responsible. Parents are responsible. Parents' attitudes, parents' behavior needs to. So whenever parents ask me this question in parents' webinar, I say, how much do you do it? First tell me that. Then we will address the students. So it is me as a parent responsible for that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Very true. Yeah. Very
Thank
true.
you. Thank you, Prasanna ji. अब बाद में आए लेकिन
Thank
दुरुस्त
you.
है.
No, I was listening all your lectures, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay. I try to share whatever I have learned, whatever I have experimented, whatever I have been using. That is what I shared with all of you.
Veena ma'am, there is this question from the audience. Sanjeev
Okay.
Bhuya wants to know that he agrees about that we should be encouraging inquiry. So he wishes to know certain techniques to do the same.
The only technique is asking question. Let the children ask question. Start your something with a question only. Okay, I'll just give an example of Lawrence Force. I had the best of student whom I was expecting to get 100 on 100 in physics, and when the paper came, that was question from 2009, maybe 2008, maybe CBSE physics paper. So the very first question was, if there's a charged particle moving in a certain field and that charged particle displays a certain kind of motion, so tell us what kind of field it is and what kind of charge the particle has. And that child came back, Aditya, he had not answered. I was like, why have you not answered? Ma'am, this question I don't understand. So the question is how we are teaching only the core concept. Lorentz force everybody knew, but when the question was put up in this form, it was
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you art of framing question for the students as well as for the teachers is very important when you are teaching that concept in the class. How you frame your question, that makes a difference.
Very true.
Sorry, I'm just, if you keep on asking me, I'll keep going on and on. So
yeah, and this is not a question, just just something for Veena ma'am that Vijay sir is. You'll be surprised to know he's not a science teacher. He's a Hindi teacher of our school, and he has loved your idea of the panelists, students who will be the panelists during the live class.
Make them teachers of the day. Make them teachers of the day. You will be relieved and sitting at the back in the backstage studio and watching students doing that for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, students, there are a few more that I'm trying to look out for, and here there is one, I believe. Veena ma'am, nice to hear. We should allow students to fail. Let them learn by themselves. Absolutely.
Let them try. Yes, let them fail. I mean, the parents are trying to drill from the kitchen also, because the next day there's a test. So mother is after the child. Tell me this, tell me that, tell me that. So we are more on the reproduction of what we have learned. So let the child fail. Let him feel guilty at times. Support him. Next time he will study on his own. I'm too much into that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any of our panelists and our invited, Carys is not there. Any of our invited guests who would like any closing comments, or should we come to an end?
Yeah, Veena ma'am, you are such an experienced teacher. You said that since 1977 you are in this profession. That means more than 40 years you are in this profession. But I am watching you since more than 2 hours. The enthusiasm, the passion, the energy, how you are bringing it at this age.
Because you love sharing, because you love interacting, because you love being with people, you love smiles of the people around, like Mitra giving such a big smile, like they are looking keenly at me, what is she trying to say? And then Chandrani giving a smile, and Janali still thinking, oh, what is going on? So I could get expression. So I'm so happy interacting with all of you.
Yes,
that's wonderful. I really appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah, ma'am.
So love what you do and do what you love.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, Janali.
Thank you, Veena ma'am. Thank you. Only my concern was about time, because I have got other schedule. So thank you. What you have.
Yes.
Thank you, Mitra.
So like observing everybody and then loving what you do. I mean, if I'm interested, I will come to this platform. And I have been myself attending so many webinars in the last few days.
Absolutely.
So you have to learner all through.
Thank you.
Learner all through. So how do you update yourself? FICCI webinars have been absolutely wonderful to attend. You can go to their link on the Facebook and look at all the webinars recordings. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
Schools have been doing wonderful webinars. Early childhood education has been doing wonderful webinars. I've been attending as many as possible. So I think I've been on laptop or here or there, almost 8 hours on it. So you're learning. Yesterday only I attended, I think day before, Dr. Sugata Mitra's session. It was so wonderful to attend this session. It's a one-time, like lifetime opportunity to interact with him on a platform.
Absolutely.
So the question is, you keep your eyes open and find that time moment that is only me moment. And then there's something that I have been sharing with my children, and she particularly wrote to me, "Ma'am, Mama, please share that Gyanpal, the teaching moment. Like yesterday we had an earthquake. How can you use this moment, teaching moment time to the children? Why does earthquake occurs? What are the social reasons for getting an earthquake? Why are we getting the earthquakes so frequently nowadays? So, I mean, something that is related to happening right now can be connected. We had that solar eclipse. Talk about, so make those movements, those as the teaching movements, make those gyan pulse. So people say that even the smallest moment of time is very important. That is the value of time. So use those gyan pulse that I give that one thought. That's the way I learned retired but not tired.
True. Yeah. So I think we will wind up the session, but I think Dipjyoti has something to show us. Dipjyoti, are you there? Janali, in case you are in a hurry, and to any other invited guests, in case you are in a hurry, please don't hesitate. I know we are beyond the schedule, and I'll just take
It's
5 minutes.
9:30. It's time for us to wind up with
Yes, yes, yes. So therefore, just a quick roundup before I say goodbye to all of you. It has been a wonderful session. Thanks to each one of you for participating. And Veena ma'am, Carys ma'am, you have given us such lovely thoughts to ponder upon. And I would like to end the session. We have something else in mind, but looking at the clock, we won't. So my last message will be here. Oh, is it looking blank? And you are wondering,
Yes.
am I showing you a blank paper? Okay,
Yes.
fine. We are talking of the students, teachers being innovative all the evening. We have been saying this, and this is what our panelists also said. And so I think this is a small little trick that any science teacher can show
Yes,
in those
yes.
kind of classes,
Yes.
and can have, and then start the discussion with why and
Right.
how did it happen. So
Yes.
therefore, with that note,
Wonderful.
and with the note that interstellar quote, that Newton's third law of motion, we all science teachers teach perhaps, that to go forward we need a push backward. So let all those typical ways of teaching be left backward, and let's push that backward and move forward to creating more innovative and interactive classrooms. Thank you everyone. Goodbye and stay safe.
And this is Swami Vivekananda's talk. Arise, awake, and do not stop till your goal is achieved. With that, I close and thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Thank you.